The Great Hall of the Confederation was silent. 12 species sat in their designated sections, their eyes fixed on the holographic display floating in the center of the chamber. The Valorian diplomat stood at the podium, his silver skin reflecting the blue light of the projection. "We must discuss the human problem," he said. No one objected. No one ever did when this topic came up. The hologram changed to show a battlefield. It was Nexus 7, a mining colony on the edge of known space. The Kreth had invaded it 3 years ago. The Kreth were insectoid creatures, each one standing 8 feet tall with armor like skin and claws that could tear through metal. They numbered in the thousands and moved like a swarm of death. The humans had sent 500 soldiers. The footage showed what happened next. Human soldiers moved through the chaos with strange calm. They did not panic when the Kreth charged. They did not run when their friends fell. They simply kept fighting, kept shooting, kept advancing. When their weapons ran empty, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used their hands. When one soldier fell, another stepped forward to take their place. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Kreth lost 4,000 warriors. The humans lost 212. The rest walked off that battlefield carrying their dead, their eyes empty but their backs straight. A Morithian general shifted in his seat. The Morithians were large, bear-like creatures known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had conquered 11 worlds before joining the Confederation. The general had personally led armies that crushed entire civilizations. He was afraid of humans. "Show them the naval engagement," he said quietly. The hologram shifted again. This time, it showed the darkness of space, filled with ships. The Thescan armada floated in perfect formation. The Thescan were considered the masters of space combat. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their tactics refined over 10,000 years of warfare. Against them floated a human, fleet half their size. The battle began. The Thescan moved with practiced precision, their ships dancing through space in patterns that had defeated countless enemies. But the humans did not fight like other species. They did not follow predictable patterns. They did not retreat when damaged. One human cruiser, its hull torn open and leaking atmosphere, flew directly into the heart of the Thescan formation. It fired every weapon it had while its crew burned alive inside. The Thescan admiral had surrendered 3 hours later. In his official report, he wrote one line: "They do not fear death." We cannot fight what does not fear death. The Valorian diplomat let the footage end. The chamber remained silent. 60 years ago, humanity joined our confederation, he said. In that time, they have fought in 37 conflicts. They have never lost. Not once, he paused. And we must ask ourselves a question. What happens when they decide we are their enemy? A Felian ambassador raised one of her tentacles. The Felians were a peaceful species, known for their diplomacy and trade networks. They had no military of their own. Perhaps we should simply remain their friends, she suggested. The Morithian general laughed, but there was no humor in it. The humans have a saying: keep your friends close and your enemies closer. They smile at us across negotiating tables while building weapons we cannot understand. They share technology with one hand and hide secrets with the other. He shook his massive head. Friendship with humans is like friendship with fire. Useful, yes, but always dangerous. Then what do you suggest? The Valorian asked. Before the general could answer, the chamber doors opened. A young aide rushed in, his face pale with fear. He whispered something to the Valorian diplomat. The silver-skinned alien's expression changed from annoyance to concern to something close to terror. The Dominion of Kethril has invaded Verith Prime, he announced. Murmurs filled the chamber. The Dominion was a rogue faction that had broken away from the Confederation decades ago. They were brutal, aggressive, and believed that strength was the only law. Vareth Prime was a neutral colony world, home to 3 million civilians from a dozen different species. How many Dominion forces? The Marithian general demanded. 40,000 ground troops, 60 warships. They have taken the capital and are holding the population hostage. The chamber erupted in argument. Some called for immediate military response. Others urged caution and negotiation. The Thescan representative suggested a blockade. The Marithians wanted a full assault. Through it all, one delegation remained silent. The humans. Their ambassador was a middle-aged woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She sat perfectly still while chaos swirled around her. Finally, when the shouting reached its peak, she stood. The chamber went quiet. When humans spoke in these meetings, others listened. They listened because they were afraid not to. The Confederation fleet will take 3 weeks to assemble, she said. In that time, the Dominion will fortify their position. They will dig in, build defenses, bring in reinforcements. A direct assault will cost us 250,000 soldiers and 6 months of fighting. The colony will be destroyed in the process. Then what do you suggest? The Valorian asked again, this time directing his question at her. The human ambassador smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but somehow it made the temperature in the room drop. We send specialists, she said. What kind of specialists? Our best. The Marithian general leaned forward. He had heard rumors about human specialists. Soldiers who were different from the rest. Soldiers who fought in the shadows, who struck without warning, who disappeared like ghosts. He had dismissed these stories as propaganda. Looking at the human ambassador's smile, he was no longer sure. How many? He asked. 18. Laughter broke out in the chamber. The Felian ambassador shook her head in disbelief. The Thescan representative openly mocked the suggestion. 18 soldiers against 40,000? It was suicide. It was insanity. But the Marithian general did not laugh. He watched the human ambassador's face. She was not joking. She was not exaggerating. She genuinely believed that 18 humans could accomplish what armies could not. That terrified him more than anything he had seen in the holographic footage. And if your specialists fail? The Valorian asked. The ambassador's smile widened slightly. They won't. But if they do? She considered the question for a moment. Then you can assemble your fleet and spend 6 months fighting a war that will kill millions. But you won't need to. She gathered her documents and turned to leave. At the door, she paused and looked back at the assembled representatives of 12 species. You have spent this meeting discussing the human problem, she said. You fear what our regular soldiers can do. Our infantry, our navy, our standard military forces. She let those words hang in the air. The people we are sending to Vareth Prime are not our standard forces. They are something else entirely. Something we created to fight each other, back when we were still divided. Back when we were still learning how to kill. She walked out, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. The Marithian general was the first to speak. What have we invited into our galaxy? He whispered. No one had an answer. Dalvex had studied humans for 3 years. He had read every report, watched every recording, and interviewed dozens of soldiers who had fought alongside them. He thought he understood them. He thought he knew what to expect. He was wrong. The troop carrier, Starfall, moved through space toward Vareth Prime. Dalvex walked through its corridors, his silver Valorian skin marking him as an outsider among the human crew. He had been assigned as a liaison officer to the human specialists. His job was to observe, report, and assist with communication between the strike team and the Confederation command. He found them in Cargo Bay 7. The door slid open, and Thalvex stopped. He had expected noise. Human soldiers were famous for their loud behavior before battle. They shouted, sang songs, made jokes about death. It was strange and disturbing, but it was normal. This was not normal. 18 humans sat in the cargo bay. Some cleaned their weapons with careful, practiced movements. Others checked their equipment, piece by piece. A few simply sat with closed eyes, breathing slowly. No one spoke. No one laughed. The only sounds were the soft clicks of metal on metal and the quiet hum of the ship's engines. Thalvex felt a chill run through his body. He had visited predator reserves on his homeworld. He had watched hunting animals rest before a kill. They had the same silence, the same stillness, the same patient, deadly calm. You must be the liaison. The voice came from his right. Thalvex turned to find a human woman standing beside him. She had appeared without sound, without warning. He had not heard her approach. She was small by human standards, with dark hair cut short and eyes the color of deep space. Her face showed no expression. A patch on her shoulder read Chen above a symbol he did not recognize. "I am Thalvex of the Valorian Intelligence Division," he said, keeping his voice steady. "I have been assigned to observe your mission. Colonel Sarah Chun, call sign Reaper." She shook his hand. Her grip was firm, but not aggressive. "Welcome to the team." Thalvex looked around the cargo bay again. "These are your specialists? Some of the best Earth has ever produced." Chun gestured to different groups as she spoke. "Delta Force, DevGru, SAS, Spetsnaz Gru, KSK, Jin. We pulled operators from every major special forces unit on Earth." Thalvex recognized some of those names from his research. These units were enemies once. Your nations fought wars against each other. That's right. And now they work together? Chen's expression did not change. "We found something better to fight." She led him through the bay, introducing team members. Each one nodded politely, but said little. Their eyes measured Thalvex, calculated him, and then dismissed him as a non-threat. He had never felt so thoroughly examined in his life. "You move differently," Thalvex said suddenly. "All of you. Different from regular human soldiers." Chun stopped walking. For a moment, something flickered in her dark eyes. Interest, perhaps, or amusement. "Regular soldiers train to fight wars," she said. "We train to end them. There's a difference." "What difference?" "Armies fight until one side surrenders. We fight until one side is dead." She resumed walking. "Our training programs have a 90% failure rate. Not because candidates lack skill or strength. They fail because they can't adapt. They can't become what the mission requires." "And what does the mission require?" Chun turned to face him fully. "Whatever is necessary." A large man approached him. He was built like a Mauritian, all muscle and mass, but he moved with surprising grace. His accent marked him as Russian. "Colonel, we have received mission brief." He handed Chun a tablet device. "Dominion has 12,000 troops in the capital. Automated defense network. Orbital bombardment capability. They consider the city impenetrable." Chun studied the data. "Commander Kethros is in charge?" "Da. Veteran of 30 campaigns. Never lost a battle. Then he's overdue." Chun showed Thalvex the tablet. "This is our target. The Dominion Command Center in the capital city. We will infiltrate, disable their planetary defenses, and eliminate their command structure. All before the Confederation fleet arrives." Thalvex stared at the data. 12,000 enemy soldiers. 18 humans. The math was impossible. "How?" he asked. "We drop from low orbit in pods designed to look like space debris. Their sensors won't register us as a threat. We hit the ground, split into 3 elements, and begin operations. 3 elements of 6 soldiers each. Against thousands." Chun nodded. "This is suicide." For the first time, Chun smiled. It was a cold expression, like winter ice forming on a lake. We've heard that before. Every mission, someone says it's suicide. Here we are. The Russian man laughed quietly. In Spetsnaz we had saying, suicide is when you have no plan. When you have plan, it is just very difficult work. Thalvex wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that no plan could account for such overwhelming odds. But he looked at the 18 humans in that cargo bay, at their quiet confidence and deadly patience, and the words died in his throat. These were not normal soldiers. They were something else. Something the galaxy had not encountered before. You have questions, Chun said. It was not a question. Many. Ask one. Thalvex thought for a moment. Your units trained to fight each other. Your nation spent centuries in conflict. How can you trust soldiers who were once your enemies? The Russian man answered, because we understand each other. My grandfather fought American special forces in Cold War shadows. My father tracked British SAS through Afghan mountains. I grew up learning to hate them. He paused. Then I trained with them, bled with them, watched them die for me and my brothers. He shrugged his massive shoulders. Hate is easy. Respect is earned. These people earned it. Chun nodded. We spent centuries perfecting the art of killing each other. Now we use those skills together. Every tactic the galaxy throws at us, one of our teams has seen before. We learn from each other by trying to destroy each other. That is disturbing, Thalvex said. Yes, Chun agreed. That's the point. An alarm sounded throughout the ship. They were approaching the system. Drop time was in 2 hours. Chun began issuing orders. Her team moved with perfect coordination, no words needed. They communicated with glances, small gestures, slight nods. Years of training and combat had made them something more than individuals. They were a single organism with 18 bodies. Thalvex watched them prepare. He saw weapons that were not in any Confederation database. He saw equipment designed for infiltration, assassination, and destruction. He saw humans transform from quiet professionals into instruments of war. Colonel Chun, he called out as she walked away. One more question. She paused. What makes you think you can succeed where armies have failed? Chun considered the question. Around her, her team continued their preparations, loading magazines and checking blades and memorizing target profiles. We train to kill each other, she said. The galaxy's easy. She walked away, leaving Thalvex alone with his fear. An hour later, the Starfall dropped into the Vareth system. Dominion sensors detected the carrier immediately. Enemy ships moved to intercept. The odds were 40-1 against them. Colonel Chun looked at her team, gathered in the drop bay in their orbital insertion pods. 18 faces looked back at her, calm and ready. Acceptable odds, she said. The pods launched into the darkness of space, falling toward a world that did not know death was coming. Commander Kethros stood in his command center and smiled. The invasion of Vareth Prime had been perfect. His forces had swept through the colony in 6 hours, capturing the capital and 3 million hostages. The Confederation was assembling a response fleet, but it would take weeks. By then, his defenses would be unbreakable. He was the finest military commander the Dominion had ever produced. 30 campaigns. 30 victories. His name was spoken with fear across a dozen star systems. Tonight, he would learn what fear truly meant. The sensor officer looked up from his console. Commander, we are detecting debris entering the atmosphere. Metallic composition. Likely remnants from the space battle. Kethros waved a clawed hand. Let it burn. Focus on the Confederation fleet movements. He did not see the debris slow down at the last moment. He did not see parachutes deploy in the darkness. He did not see 18 shadows land silently in the hills outside the city. Colonel Chun hit the ground rolling and was on her feet in seconds. Around her, 17 operators gathered their gear and buried their pods. They worked without flashlights, without communication devices, without any signal that could be detected. Hand signals only. Eyes adjusted to darkness. 3 teams. 3 objectives. 6 hours until sunrise. Team 1 moved north toward the outer defense perimeter. They carried long rifles with advanced optics, weapons designed to kill from distances that most species considered impossible. Sergeant First Class Viktor Morozov led them, the Russian giant moving through the night like a ghost. Their job was simple. Remove the sentries. Create a path. They found the first patrol 20 minutes later. 5 Dominion soldiers walking a predetermined route, weapons held casually. They had been on this patrol for 6 days. Nothing ever happened. Victor settled into a firing position. His spotter, a British SAS operator named James, marked targets through his scope. 5 tangos. 600 meters. Wind from the east, 2 clicks. Victor adjusted his aim. His breathing slowed to almost nothing. His heartbeat dropped to 40 beats per minute. In that moment, he was not a man. He was a weapon system. The first shot crossed the distance in less than a second. The Dominion soldier dropped without a sound, dead before his brain could register the impact. Victor cycled the bolt and fired again. And again. And again. 5 shots. 5 kills. 4 seconds. The patrol simply ceased to exist. Team 1 moved forward, repeating the process. Over the next hour, they eliminated 17 sentries across a 3-kilometer stretch of the defense perimeter. Not a single alarm was raised. Not a single shot was heard. The bodies simply disappeared into the darkness. Team 2 approached the eastern bunker complex. This was a hardened facility designed to withstand orbital bombardment. Inside were automated defense systems, communication relays, and 40 Dominion soldiers. Master Sergeant Sarah Ghost Williams led the team. She was small, quiet, and had personally killed more enemies than most infantry battalions. Her specialty was close quarters combat, the brutal art of fighting in hallways and rooms where there was no space to run. They reached the bunker entrance at 03:00 hours local time. 2 guards stood watch. Bored and tired. Ghost moved without sound. Her knife found the first guard's throat before he could blink. Her partner, a German KSK operator named Klaus, took the second guard at the same moment. The bodies were hidden in 30 seconds. Inside the bunker, the Dominion soldiers slept. Some played games. Others maintained equipment. None expected attack. Their fortress was impenetrable. Everyone knew that. The shape charges were placed with millimeter precision. Tiny amounts of explosive, positioned to create maximum devastation in minimum time. Ghost counted down on her fingers. 3, 2, 1. The charges detonated simultaneously. Doors blew inward. Smoke filled the corridors. And Team 2 entered the bunker. The next 90 seconds were not combat. They were execution. Ghost moved through the smoke like death itself. Her rifle found targets through confusion and darkness. When enemies got too close, her knife completed the work. Her team flowed behind her, each covering their sector, each eliminating threats with mechanical precision. They had trained for this in kill houses around the world. Thousands of hours of practice, room after room, target after target. Every movement was muscle memory. Every shot was automatic. 40 Dominion soldiers died in that bunker. Most never saw their killers. Most never fired a shot. Team 2 transmitted a single word to command. Clear. Team 3 had the most difficult assignment. They needed intelligence. They needed to know the exact layout of the command center, the security codes, the patrol schedules. They needed a prisoner. Captain Jean-Baptiste Moreau led this team. He was French Gijin, trained in hostage rescue and counterterrorism. But tonight he would use darker skills. They found their target at a communication outpost. A Dominion officer, alone except for 2 guards. He was sending reports to Commander Kethrus, updating him on the quiet night. The guards died first. Quick, silent deaths that made no sound in the night. Then Moreau stepped into the light. The officer reached for his weapon. Moreau's hand caught his wrist, twisted, broke it. The officer screamed, but a cloth covered his mouth before the sound could travel. "You will answer my questions," Moreau said in the Dominion language. He spoke calmly, as if discussing the weather. "You can answer quickly and live. Or you can answer slowly and die. Choose." The officer struggled. He was a soldier of the Dominion. He would not betray his commander. 9 minutes later, he had told them everything. Moreau's methods were not pleasant. They were not honorable, but they were effective. By the time the sun began to rise, Team 3 had complete intelligence on the command center. Guard rotations. Security protocols. The location of Commander Kethrus himself. They left the officer alive, as promised. He would never walk properly again, but he breathed out in the command center. Kethrus received his morning reports. The night had been quiet. No incidents. No alerts. Everything was proceeding according to plan. His aide entered the room. "Commander, we have lost contact with 17 sentries on the outer perimeter." Kethrus frowned. "Equipment malfunction?" "Unknown, sir. We also cannot reach the eastern bunker complex." They missed their scheduled check-in. Something cold settled in Kethrus' stomach. He had commanded armies for decades. He had never felt this sensation before. It took him a moment to recognize it. Fear. Send patrols to investigate. Full combat readiness. The patrols found the bodies. Or rather, they found some of them. Sentries with holes in their skulls from impossible distances. Bunker soldiers cut down in their own fortress. A communication officer broken and babbling about ghosts in the darkness. Kethrus received the reports with growing horror. These were not standard military casualties. This was something else. Something that hunted in the shadows, that struck without warning, that killed without mercy. His second-in-command entered the room. "Commander, what are we fighting?" Kethrus stared at the reports. 18 pods had been detected entering atmosphere. 18 small objects dismissed as debris. And now dozens of his soldiers were dead. His defenses were compromised. And fear was spreading through his army like disease. "I don't know." He admitted it was the first time in his career he had spoken those words. Somewhere in the hills overlooking the city, Colonel Chun gathered her teams. They had completed Phase 1. The enemy knew something was wrong. Now it was time for Phase 2. She looked at her operators, their faces painted in darkness, their weapons ready. They had killed without remorse. They would kill again without hesitation. This was not war as the galaxy understood it. This was the human doctrine of violence. Total, efficient, merciless. "Command center assault in 6 hours, Chun said. "Rest while you can." Her team settled into the shadows and waited for night to return. The second night was worse than the first. Commander Kethrus had ordered full defensive lockdown. Patrols were doubled. Sentries worked in groups of 10. Every soldier carried live ammunition and orders to shoot on sight. The city was locked down tight, every entrance guarded, every rooftop watched. It did not matter. The first patrol found their dead arranged in a pattern. 12 Dominion soldiers, laid out in a perfect circle, their weapons placed beside them. In the center was a message written in their own blood. "We see you." The patrol leader reported this to command with shaking voice. Before he could finish, 3 of his soldiers fell. No sound, no muzzle flash. Just bodies dropping like puppets with cut strings. The rest ran, firing wildly into the darkness at enemies they could not see. Kethros watched the chaos unfold on his monitors. Fear was spreading through his army faster than any virus. Soldiers refused to go on patrol. Officers issued contradictory orders. Units began moving without authorization, bunching together for safety, creating perfect targets. These humans did not fight like any enemy he had faced. They did not seek territory or resources. They sought terror. On the starfall, orbiting high above, Thalvex monitored the situation with growing amazement. He watched the Dominion army, 12,000 strong, begin to crack under the pressure of 18 humans. "They're breaking," he whispered. The human communications officer nodded. "Psychological warfare. Make the enemy afraid of the dark. Make them fear every shadow. Make them turn their weapons on their own when the fear gets too much. That is not war. That is horror. It's both." Below on the planet, Colonel Chun prepared for the final assault. Her team had spent the day resting, eating, and reviewing intelligence. They knew every guard rotation, every security code, every weakness in the command center's defenses. Tonight they would end this. "Listen up," Chun said. "The command center is defended by 800 soldiers and autonomous combat drones. Commander Kethros has established a personal guard of 50 elite warriors, the best the Dominion has. They have never lost a battle." She paused, looking at her operators. 16 tired faces looked back. 2 had been wounded in the previous night's operations, minor injuries that they ignored. "We breach from 3 entry points. Team 1 takes the eastern wing and neutralizes the drone control systems. Team 2 secures the communication hub and cuts their link to the fleet. Team 3 moves on the command center itself." Her eyes were cold as deep space. "We take Kethros alive, if possible. Dead if necessary." Victor raised his hand. "The elite guard. What do we know? Kethrol warrior caste. Bigger than standard soldiers, faster, better trained. They've crushed special operations teams from 6 different species." "6 species," Ghost repeated. "Not humans." Chun's smile was thin and sharp. "No, not humans. They moved at midnight, shadows within shadows. The city was on full alert, lights blazing everywhere, soldiers at every corner. It did not matter. The humans had learned to move unseen through the most heavily defended places on Earth. Alien cities were no different. They approached the command center from 3 directions. Chun led Team 3 personally. They crawled through drainage tunnels that Dominion engineers had considered too small for assault. They were right. For most species, the breach came at exactly 0200 hours. Team 1 hit the eastern wing like a thunderbolt. Flashbangs exploded, designed specifically for Kethrol light sensitivity. The defenders, momentarily blinded, died before they could recover. 6 humans moved through corridors designed for hundreds, their weapons speaking in controlled bursts. The drones activated, tracked targets, prepared to fire. Then their control systems went dark. A British operator named James had spent 6 minutes inserting a virus into their network. 6 minutes while his teammates held off waves of attackers. Team 2 breached the communication hub simultaneously. The Dominion technicians inside never expected close-quarters combat. Their training was for keyboards and screens, not bullets and blood. Ghost's team cleared the room in 11 seconds. Then began the work of severing the command center from the outside world. Team 3 reached the inner sanctum. The elite guard was waiting. 50 Kethrol warriors, the finest soldiers in the Dominion. They were huge, each one standing 7 feet tall with natural armor and claws that could tear through body armor. They had killed special operations teams from the Theskin, the Merithians, and 4 other species. They had never been defeated. 6 humans faced them. Chun did not hesitate. She moved first, flowing through the doorway with her rifle firing. Her first 3 shots took the lead warrior in his unarmored joints, dropping him before he could swing his blade. Behind her, her team spread out, each taking a sector. The elite guard charged. This was their domain, close-quarters combat against smaller, weaker opponents. This was where they always won. They did not win tonight. The humans fought differently than any enemy the guard had faced. They did not stand and trade blows. They moved constantly, flowing like water around the larger warriors. They targeted joints and eyes and throats, the vulnerable points that armor could not protect. They worked together like parts of a single machine, each covering the others, each creating openings for their teammates. Victor met a charging warrior with a single shot to the knee, then a blade to the throat as the creature fell. Ghost killed 2 in the same second, her rifle firing while her knife found another target. Klaus took a blow that cracked his ribs, but he stayed on his feet and killed his attacker with his bare hands. The fight lasted 11 seconds. 50 elite guards. 6 humans. 47 dead Kethril. 1 wounded human. 0 dead humans. The survivors of the guard fled. They ran from creatures half their size, their unbreakable courage shattered by enemies who simply would not die, would not stop, would not show mercy. Chun stepped over the bodies and kicked open the door to the command. Center. Commander Kethra stood inside. He was old for his species, his scales graying, but his eyes were clear and hard. He held a ceremonial blade in his claws, the symbol of his rank and honor. "You are the human commander," he said. Chun nodded, her rifle trained on his center mass. "Colonel Sarah Chun, you're under arrest." "Arrest?" Kethros laughed bitterly. "I have commanded armies for 40 years. I have conquered worlds. I have never surrendered to anyone. There's a first time for everything." "No." The old commander raised his blade. "I would rather die with honor than surrender to ghosts." Chun lowered her rifle slightly. For a moment, something almost like respect crossed her face. "Then you'll die tired." The lights went out. What happened next was brief. Kethros was a warrior, skilled with his blade, experienced in combat. But he had never fought in true darkness. Humans had. For centuries, they had perfected the art of fighting blind, of killing by sound and touch and instinct. When the lights came back on 3 seconds later, Kethros was on the ground. His blade was gone. Chun stood over him, her rifle pressed against his skull. "Surrender," she said. "Or don't. Either way, this war is over." Kethros looked up at her. He had faced enemies across 30 campaigns. He had seen courage and fear in 100 forms. He had never seen anything like the cold emptiness in this human's eyes. "What are you?" he whispered. Chun did not answer. She just waited. After a long moment, Kethros closed his eyes. "I surrender." Across the city, the Dominion defenses went dark. The planetary shield dropped. Communication channels opened with a pre-recorded message. The war was over. Resistance was fueled. On the starfall. 12X watched in disbelief as 12,000 soldiers began laying down their weapons. 18 humans had broken an army in 2 nights. 18 humans had accomplished what military planners said would require 50,000 troops and 3 months of siege warfare. How? He asked no one in particular. The human communications officer smiled. "We train for this. No one can train for this. Humans can." The officer turned back to his console. "That's the point." Below, in the ruins of the command center, Chun secured Kethros and called for extraction. Her team gathered around her, battered and bloody but alive. "Mission complete," she reported. "Objective secured. Minimal casualties." She did not mention the fear they had spread. She did not mention the psychological damage that would take the Dominion years to recover from. She did not mention the legends that would grow from this night. Stories of human ghosts who could not be stopped, could not be killed, could not be defeated. She did not need to mention it. The galaxy would learn soon enough. The sun rose over Vareth Prime. The war was over. And somewhere in the stars, a dozen species began to understand what humanity truly was. The Confederation fleet arrived 3 days later. Admiral Calthville of the Marithian Navy stood on his bridge and stared at the planet below. His fleet had come prepared for war. 200 warships, 50,000 ground troops, enough firepower to crack a planet in half. None of it was needed. "Report," he growled. His aide swallowed nervously. "The Dominion forces have surrendered, Admiral. All 12,000 of them. The planetary defenses are offline. Commander Kethros is in human custody." "How?" 18 human special operators, sir. They infiltrated 2 nights ago. By the time we arrived, the war was already over. Admiral Kothful had served in the Marithian military for 60 years. He had seen wars that lasted decades. He had witnessed battles that killed millions. He had never heard of anything like this. "Take me to the surface," he said. "I want to see these humans myself." The shuttle landed in the capital city square. Signs of battle were everywhere, but they were strange. No destroyed buildings. No crater marks from heavy weapons. Just bodies and blood and the empty stares of Dominion soldiers who had surrendered without a fight. He found the humans in what had been the command center. They were packing their equipment, preparing for extraction. 18 tired soldiers moving with quiet efficiency. They did not look like monsters. They looked like ordinary people. Small, soft, without claws or fangs or armor. But the way they moved, the way their eyes tracked everything in the room, the way they seemed ready to kill at any moment. That was not ordinary. Colonel Chun approached him. She was tiny compared to his massive frame, barely reaching his chest. Her face was calm, her posture relaxed. She terrified him. "Admiral Kothful," she said, "the city is secure. Dominion forces are contained. Civilian casualties, 0, 0. The Admiral could not hide his disbelief. "You fought a battle in a city of 3 million and killed no civilians? We're professionals, Admiral. We choose our targets." She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like precision killing on this scale was routine. Maybe for humans it was. Thalvex descended from orbit to meet the fleet. He had watched the entire operation from the starfall. He had seen things that would give him nightmares for years. But he had also seen something remarkable. He found Admiral Kothful speaking with the human ambassador who had arrived with the fleet. She was showing him a data file, a simple document that the Admiral read with growing horror. "What is this?" Kothful demanded. "Earth's history of special operations," the ambassador said calmly. "This is what you asked for. How we trained these soldiers. What they have accomplished." Thalvex looked over the Admiral's shoulder. He saw names and dates and numbers that made no sense. Operations against impossible odds. Raids deep in enemy territory. Rescue missions and assassinations and acts of violence that defied military logic. One entry caught his eye. A raid on a compound in a nation called Pakistan. A team of humans had infiltrated hostile territory, killed a high-value target, and extracted within 40 minutes. The defenders had outnumbered them 10 to 1. Another entry described 6 soldiers, holding a building for 6 days against hundreds of attackers. They had run out of ammunition on day 4. They kept fighting with knives and bare hands until rescue arrived. Another showed a single soldier who had killed over 500 enemies in one battle, shooting for days without rest, protecting his wounded brothers. "These cannot be real," Kothful said. "They are." The ambassador's smile was thin. "And these are not even classified. Imagine what we don't tell you." A Dominion diplomat arrived that afternoon. He was young, clearly not important enough to risk on this mission. His superiors had sent him because they expected him to fail. He trembled as he entered the negotiation room. His eyes kept darting to the human soldiers who stood guard at the doors. They did not move. They did not speak. They just watched with those patient predator eyes. "The Dominion requests a ceasefire," the diplomat said. His voice shook. "We will withdraw from all contested territories. We will pay reparations. We will sign any treaty you require. In exchange for what?" the Confederation representative asked. The diplomat looked at the human ambassador. "In exchange for a promise that you will never send your specialists against us again." The human ambassador raised an eyebrow. "That's your only condition?" "Yes." The diplomat's composure cracked. "I have read the reports from Verith Prime. I have spoken with survivors. They speak of ghosts in the darkness, of soldiers who cannot be killed, of warriors who do not know fear." He shuddered. "The Dominion has waged war for 300 years. We have never faced anything like this. We never want to face it again." The treaty was signed within the hour. Later that night, the Confederation summit reconvened via holographic link. Representatives from 12 species appeared around a virtual table. In the center floated the updated threat assessment for humanity. The Valorian diplomat who had opened the discussion days ago stood once again. "We gathered to discuss the human problem," he said. "I believe we now understand its scope." He activated a new display. It showed Earth, a small blue world in an unremarkable solar system. Beside it floated statistics: population, military strength, technological capability. Standard Earth military forces have been rated as an existential concern for this body. We have seen what their regular soldiers can accomplish. We know the threat they represent. He paused, letting the silence stretch. But we have now seen what their elite forces can do. 18 soldiers accomplished what our projections said would require 50,000 troops and 3 months of warfare. They broke an army in 2 nights. They captured a fortress considered impenetrable. They did this without losing a single member. The display changed. Where before it had shown threat ratings and risk assessments, now it showed a single line of text: Human Special Operations Forces. Classification: restricted threat level. Do not engage under any circumstances. This classification has been added to all Confederation databases, the Valorian said. Any species that engages human elite forces without explicit Confederation authorization will be considered in violation of treaty. No one argued. No one questioned the decision. They had all seen the footage. They all understood. Thalvex remained on Verith Prime as the fleets departed. He had one more task to complete. He found Colonel Chun at the extraction point, her team loading equipment onto a shuttle. "Colonel," he called out, "may I speak with you?" She turned. For a moment, he saw exhaustion in her eyes. Real exhaustion. The kind that came from days without sleep, from constant danger, from carrying the weight of impossible missions. Then it was gone, replaced by that cold professional mask. "Walk with me," she said. They moved away from the shuttle to a quiet spot overlooking the city. Dawn was breaking, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. It seemed wrong, somehow, after everything that had happened here. "You have questions," Chun said. "One. Ask." Thalvex considered his words carefully. He had spent 3 years studying humans. He thought he had understood them. Now he knew he understood nothing. "What drives you?" He asked. "Your people have no telepathy. You cannot regenerate. You are small and fragile compared to most species. And yet you fight with a fury that terrifies the galaxy. What makes you do this? Chun looked out at the sunrise. For a long moment, she said nothing. When she spoke, her voice was quiet. We call it a lot of things. Duty, honor, brotherhood, love for the people back home. She shrugged. The truth is simpler. We fight because we must. We fight because no one else will. We fight because somewhere in our history, our ancestors learned that the universe is cruel and dark and full of things that want to kill us. And instead of hiding, instead of giving up, they decided to become the thing that monsters fear. And this? Thalvex gestured at the city, at the evidence of impossible victory. What do you call this? Chun smiled. It was the first genuine smile Thalvex had seen from her. It did not reach her eyes. We call it Tuesday. She walked back to the shuttle, leaving Thalvex alone with the sunrise. Her team was waiting, already preparing for the next mission, the next impossible task, the next war that needed ending. The shuttle lifted off, carrying 18 humans back to the stars. Below them, a liberated city began to wake. Around them, a galaxy watched with new understanding and old fear. Humanity had proven something on Vareth Prime. Not just that they could fight, not just that they could win, but that somewhere in the shadows, in the secret places where regular soldiers never went, there were humans who had become something else entirely, something the galaxy had no word for, something that would haunt the nightmares of empires for generations to come. And somewhere, far across the stars, other species began to wonder if this was what 18 humans could do. What would happen when they sent more? What would happen when humanity stopped holding back? The question hung in the void, unanswered. And in the great halls of a dozen civilizations, leaders who had once dreamed of conquest looked at the stars and felt something they had never felt before. They felt small. They felt afraid. They felt human. Eyes watching them from the darkness, and they wondered if they would ever sleep peacefully again.